How's it going, everyone? Sorry from Weather SpongeBob. That was the day. It's June 12th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on our potential tropical storm bill that could form in the Atlantic next week, and we'll also talk about more tropical disturbances in the Eastern Pacific. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe. If you want to see more weather records, make sure to like. If you like this video, make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather records. So let's begin by taking a look at the current IR loop for the entire Atlantic. And as you can see, we do have a lot of convection occurring in the southwestern portion of the Gulf of Mexico, where we do see areas of thunderstorm activity lingering over the Yucatan Peninsula in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and we're seeing a lot of thunderstorm activity happening in the Eastern Pacific, as we have seen an influx of tropical waves move through Central America, and it's partially due to a monsoon that's going on in the southern African Saharan desert region, where we're seeing an influx of thunderstorm activity move a lot just north of the equator and further westward into the into the Central American countries, and we're seeing now a very moist atmosphere in this region, and we could see almost sort of a gyre pattern occur right around Mexico during this time, as we do see a lot of convection in this region. So if we were to take a closer look, you see that the thunderstorm activity isn't really organized. We aren't seeing any sort of major blow up when it comes to thunderstorm activity that could maybe result in a tropical depression or tropical storm at this time, which is a key word, at this time, because in the future we could see conditions become more favorable for tropical cyclone development, not only for the Eastern Pacific but for the Gulf of Mexico as well, and it could pose a threat to the Gulf Coast states in the future. If we were to take a look at the 5-day Atlantic tropical outlook, you see that from yesterday, the chance of tropical cyclone development in the Gulf of Mexico has increased quite dramatically, because I think yesterday the chance was only there was only a 20% chance of tropical cyclone formation, but now the chance has risen to 40% chance of tropical cyclone formation over the next 5 days, which pretty much means that there's a medium chance that we're going to see some sort of tropical depression or tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico over the next 5 days. And like I said yesterday, I wouldn't have been surprised if the chance increases today and as we head closer into the long-term future, because if we were to take a look at the computer models in the long-term future, they're really favoring some sort of tropical cyclone development to come out of this sort of gyre or this blow up of convection that's happening in the Central American region at this time, and conditions could become more favorable beyond our 5-day forecast. So there is still that possibility that the chance does increase for tropical cyclone formation once the computer models and the National Hurricane Center gains more confidence. We're going to see more favorable conditions for tropical cyclone development. And if we were to move on to the Eastern Pacific, we of course have Tropical Depression 3E, which is now at 35 miles per hour, but it's expected to move far into the west and not really be much of a threat to any land, so it isn't much to worry about over there. And now the chance has decreased for the disturbance in the Pacific region, as it seems more likely that there's just going to be too much land interaction for some sort of tropical cyclone to form just south of Mexico at this point. However, this disturbance is still key because it's gonna really set the stage for what could become tropical storm Bill in the Gulf of Mexico by bringing that cyclonic vorticity and that cyclonic energy further northward into the Gulf of Mexico, which will allow for more favorable tropical cyclone conditions in the Gulf of Mexico. So if we were to take a look at the sea surface temperatures, you see that the sea surface temperatures at this time are more than warm enough to support tropical cyclone development. If we take a look at the orange area pretty much represents sea surface temperatures above 29 degrees Celsius, which is well above 80 degrees. It's in the mid 80-degree category, so it's more than sufficient enough to support for tropical cyclone development. And even outside the 29 degrees Celsius mark, we of course see that a lot, pretty much most of the all of the Gulf of Mexico and a lot of the Atlantic is above 80 degrees at this time, where we do see the temperatures above 27 degrees Celsius, which is above the 80-degree mark. So that makes it so those sea surface temperatures certainly are sufficient enough to support tropical cyclone development in the Gulf of Mexico. However, there's more than just sea surface temperatures required for tropical cyclone development, and we're going to take a look at those factors right now. So let's first begin by taking a look at what the GFS model is forecasting at this time over the next 5 days. As you can see, this is pretty much an accurate representation of what's going on right now. Just a lot of thunderstorm activity throughout Central America, but nothing really organized just yet. No real really strong surface low pressure system just yet right around Mexico. However, that will change once conditions become more favorable. And as you can see, we begin to see more energy center closer and closer to the Gulf of Mexico, the southern Gulf of Mexico, just to the west of the Yucatan Peninsula, where we do see a surface low begin to form as those clusters of thunderstorms begin to get more organized. And you see that we're going to see more thunderstorm activity come from South America and move further northward, because we're going to see a weakness in ridging throughout the Caribbean. So that means that we're going to see pretty strong lower level southeasterly winds throughout the Caribbean at this time, since the ridge, the angle at which this ridge is located, is going to bring strong I wouldn't say strong actually, but it's going to bring southeasterly lower level winds to bring a lot of that moisture further northward into the Gulf of Mexico. So the moisture certainly won't be the problem over the next couple of days. And as we see more of that moisture, more of that thunderstorm activity move northward, that could set the stage for a tropical cyclone development. Moving on, it's a Thursday of next week. Nearly 5 days from now, we begin to see some organization right around the southern Gulf of Mexico, where we do see a small but barely visible low pressure system, and we see another surface low just off the coast of Belize, and we're gonna see more thunderstorm activity move into the Gulf of Mexico. And moving forward, we see finally an organized area of thunderstorms and an organized surface low located in the Gulf of Mexico. And at this point, it should most likely be a tropical depression or a tropical storm. But keep in mind, the key thing to keep in mind here is that this is beyond 5 days out. So there's certainly a good possibility that if this forecast remains over the next several days, that the chance of tropical cyclone development in the Gulf of Mexico should increase. And if we were to take a look even into a more long-term future, it becomes quite a formidable tropical storm, and it's pretty much headed straight towards Louisiana and Texas. However, take it with a big grain of salt, because there's still a lot of uncertainty when we're talking about forecasts 7 days out. So just keep a close eye on this along the Gulf Coast. But you see, 998 millibar storm is what the GFS model is currently expecting. If we were to take a look at the forecasted humidity over the next several days, there's going to be just a lot of there's just going to be a lot of moisture throughout the southern Gulf of Mexico region to support our next potential tropical cyclone. And it does seem like there's going to be a lot of dry air to slow this down. However, it's going to point out that later during the run, we do see dry air infiltrate the southern and the western side of this storm, which is typical for a lot of tropical cyclones, because of course the westerly winds move from westerly to easterly direction. So it's more likely that dry air infiltrates the western side of the storm. However, if there's too much dry air that's gonna entrain the center of circulation, then it's unlikely we're gonna see a tropical cyclone form. We just have to really wait and see. There's still a lot of uncertainty regarding how much dry air will be in the Gulf of Mexico, and that will be key in determining how strong the storm will be. And you see, despite the dry air, the GFS model is still forecasting this to strengthen. I suspect It's mainly because it's going to be over an area where the wind shear will be light, and it'll be maybe small enough to fend off a lot of the dry air. We just have to wait and see how much dry air there will be, because that'll be a big determinant if this develops. The wind shear is also another thing we need to keep in mind of, because if we take a look at the current wind shear right now, or the upper level winds, there are strong upper level winds over the Gulf of Mexico and going over the Caribbean at this time. So of course, tropical cyclone development is kept at a minimum, or is pretty much inhibited by this wind shear, where we do, because while we do see convection in the southern Gulf of Mexico, there's just too much wind shear for anything to really get organized, as that wind shear is diverting a lot of that latent heat, which a lot of low pressure systems require for a rapid intensification, and it diverts a lot of that energy away from a surface low that would develop in a less hostile environment. So the wind shear is certainly something we need to keep in mind. While the wind shear is currently strong right now, the computer models are expecting it to wind down in the future. Taking a look at the wind shear right now, of course, the upper level winds still remain strong over the Gulf of Mexico, but there's going to be a point where the upper level winds will weaken as we see sort of upper level high take over and bring a nice outflow for a surface low pressure system to develop. And you see that the wind shear is pretty light in the Gulf of Mexico headed beyond 5 days from now. Of course, the wind shear is not completely non-existent, because we still do see wind shear just to the west of the storm, which is bringing some of that dry air into the center circulation, and we do see a small upper level low right around Texas at this time. So the wind shear is non-existent, and we need to keep a close eye on where exactly that wind shear will be. However, at this point, it seems like the GFS model is leaning towards a light wind shear environment at this time, and the European as well, where the European is also taking a pretty strong low pressure system up the coast and into right around the Louisiana and Texas border. So it's going to be very interesting to watch, and we need to wait and see if this will develop, how much wind shear there will be, because it will determine how strong this storm will be and if it will impact the Gulf Coast states as a tropical storm or not. We just have to wait and see. And in terms of the track of this, it seems most of the computer models have been trending mainly towards a straight northward track. However, it could possibly change depending on if a trough moves through, because there could maybe be a trough or an upper level trough that might steer it a little bit further to the east, which would impact more states like Mississippi, Alabama, and maybe the panhandle of Florida. However, it seems like both the computer models are expecting the wind shear and to be light enough to where the storm won't really take an eastward, attract more eastward. But again, we just need to wait and see. I know you guys want to know the answers right now, but unfortunately, we're not at the point yet where we could confidently say what's going to happen or not around the 7 days time frame. So yeah, we just need to stay tuned to the updates of the computer models. If we were to take a look at the current consensus, the ensemble members, the spaghetti models, you see that the European is currently favoring a more northward track, and we do see a lot of computer models mainly stay over the same areas in the 5-day mark. So keep in mind, while the computer models are leaning towards this lingering over the same area over the next 5 days, you have to keep in mind it's only be over the next 5 days, and beyond 5 days it's more likely we're going to see it turn up northward as we begin to see the steering currents become more well defined. And you see the GFS on the GEFS model is leaning more towards an eastward track, I guess primarily due to the stronger wind shear that might be over the northern Gulf of Mexico to steer it. There's certainly a wide range of possibilities of where this potential tropical cyclone could go, and we just need to stay tuned and take a look at the updates over the next several days with the computer models, because they will be key in determining whether or not we will see a tropical storm into the Gulf, impacting Gulf Coast states into next week. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather records. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather records. And I hope you guys have a good day.